Welcome once again to How to Relate to Anyone. Here is Dr. Orv Owens.
Well, hello again, and we appreciate you joining us today to study inner relationships, inward relationships. Inward relationships is how we relate to ourselves. It's vitally important because you need to check yourself almost daily, because I have found in a lifetime that things change. Experiences, opportunities, failures, relationships, broken relationships, losses, gains, all the things in life that are happenings affect who we are as a person. Because everything's taken in through our five senses and is registered in our mind to determine whether it's of value or not of value, whether it's high value or low value, whether it's something I am really willing to put myself out there for, or whether it's something I don't want anything to do with. And so we're making decisions. Every thought is a decision, and the smallest element of thought will be something that you will retain the rest of your life. Once we make a decision, it goes into the subconscious mind, and in the subconscious mind, it controls our actions, our reactions, our behavioral patterns. So we're controlled by our subconscious mind. At least 85% of our behavior is controlled by the subconscious mind. It's habitual behavior, basically. And it's all based upon decisions we make, because every thought is a decision, and every decision becomes a part of the overall package of what we believe and who we are as a person. So we want to look at how we developed who we are as a person, because what you project to your clients, what you project to your employees, what you project to your world is what you think about yourself. Not what you have in natural abilities, but what you have in developed natural abilities. Not what you have in potential, but what you have in capabilities. Capabilities are natural abilities developed into capabilities. When you think that the average American uses about 1/20th of our natural abilities and 1/60th of our brain cells, we have a lot of room for personal growth. And so we want to talk about this inward relationship. Who do you think you are anyway? And the answer to that is you're right. Whoever you think you are is pretty much you're going to project to the rest of your world. That's why you're not too surprised when people treat you the way they treat you, because that's the way you kind of think of yourself. The interesting part is you can change that to whatever you want it to be, basically. We have people who've gone from being so shy and so backward that they can't look you in the eye to be an outstanding, outgoing person. What caused that change? A lot of hard work, determination, trial and error, making mistakes and making corrections. All of that is part of personal growth and personal development. So we want to look at three dimensions of who you are, or who you think you are today. Because who you think you are is pretty much what I'm going to read and the rest of the world is going to read as to who you are. It's what you project, and it's what you're selling, it's what you're telling us you're all about, and we're going to believe what you know you better than we know you. So if that's what you're projecting, that's the way we're going to treat you. There's three dimensions of who you think you are. And all three have impact in different areas of your life. First of all, probably, and the most important, is something you've heard for years, and that is self-esteem. Self-esteem is not something that you're born with, it's something you develop. By age two, over 50% of your self-esteem will be created in your mind. How much you value who you are. If you have parents that are constantly rebuilding in your mind how great you are and how beautiful you are and how talented you are and all the positives, by age 2, you have a pretty healthy self-esteem. If you have parents who yell and scream and paw the ground and call you names, call you stupid or whatever, then that will affect your self-esteem also. And by age 2, now all of a sudden you don't think you're worth much because nobody likes you and everybody hates you, and you feel like going out and eating worms. It's an old thing we used to say. It's a little song. And nobody likes me, everybody hates me. Guess I'll go out and eat worms. Big, long, juicy ones. You all have heard that, sure you have. And it's kind of a read on some people's self-esteem, how much they value who they are as a person. This isn't based upon what you can do and can't do. It's based upon how much value you place on who you are as a person. In this course, what we want to do is help you fall head over heels and sexually in love with yourself. You are a unique individual, one of a kind, nobody in the world just like you. We've known for years everybody has different fingerprints. We found in recent years we can record your voice and put it on a graph, and there's no two voices exactly alike. Fact is, from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes, you're unique. And yet most people go through life comparing themselves with everybody else. Are you good looking? Well, I'm not bad. And what I'm really saying is, compared to everybody else in the world, I'm not bad. Or I can pick somebody who's really ugly and say, yeah, I'm pretty good. Comparisons. The problem with comparison is probably always somebody just a little better than you, and so you're putting yourself down in that situation. A little more talented, a little more skilled, taller, thinner, whatever. All the things that we judge ourselves based upon. When in fact we should judge ourselves based upon who we are as a person rather than our appearance, our intellect, our popularity, those things that we tend to put high value on that are temporary at most. They change day to day and week to week based upon who you're fellowshipping with, depending on who you're dealing with. So your self-esteem can get wounded really rapidly if you wear your feelings on your sleeves. By age 10, 99.9% of our thought process on who we are is pretty much formed in our mind by age 10. We don't change much the rest of our life. Always been who I am. I've developed abilities. I can do things I couldn't do at age 10, but I'm still the same person I was at age 10. Well, that person is what we're talking about. Your personage, the person you think you are. A low self-esteem will cause you to put yourself down before other people put you down. Back off and not put yourself out there because you're afraid that you're going to embarrass yourself. How do you embarrass yourself? By looking less than you think is acceptable. Acceptable to who? Acceptable to you. When we can't accept ourselves, we're in trouble because nobody else can accept us if we can't accept ourselves. We project negatives. We project ugliness. We project ugly attitudes when we put ourselves down. Self-criticism does not build you up. I'm not saying you should not be aware of negatives in your life that you need to correct. That's just personal development. We can stay on the positive side and say, I'm constantly trying to find things I can do better or be more effective with or enhance my appearance, enhance my behavior so that I relate better to the people I meet on a day-to-day basis. That's the challenge of the day, every day, all of your life. To constantly be building your self-esteem, believing I can get better. I'm not perfect, but I'm sure working on it. And I'll be better tomorrow than I am today because I'm working on it today. And I'm better today than I was yesterday. We're making progress. And I believe, you live until you finally have done all you can do with what you got to do with, and then you die. God says that's enough, and now it's time to hang it up. And you might not believe that, but that's kind of my belief. And so the fact that at my age I'm still breathing air, I've got a lot of work to do yet. I've got a lot of stuff to correct. I'm not there yet. And so I need to be constantly rebuilding my self-esteem, the value I place on who I am as a person. You have to adjust it every day because you'll make mistakes, and it's real easy to start identifying with mistakes. Here's the comment. There I go again. Keep making the same dumb mistakes. You'd think I'd learn one of these days. Now, you wouldn't be too happy if other people were saying that about you. So you shouldn't be happy saying it about yourself, because it doesn't build you up, it tears you down. It doesn't add to your self-esteem, it tears your self-esteem down. And remember, your self-esteem determines what you believe about yourself, and that's what you project to your world. So you shouldn't be surprised if people treat you based on what you think about yourself. They always will. So, get the attitude up a bit. Fact is, you're a unique individual, one of a kind, nobody in the world just like you. You bring to our world a uniqueness that is of great value to me, to the rest of the world. When I meet new people, I really do some exploring to determine their uniqueness, because everybody brings uniqueness to a relationship. And that's the great joy of meeting new people. I don't care if it's somebody holding a little sign on the street corner who's out of work and whatever, or a doctor, lawyer, merchant, chief, president of the United States. I don't care who it is. I'm going to get a read on their self-esteem, and I'm going to treat them pretty much based on what they project. That's why you're never surprised when people treat you bad if you have a poor self-esteem. The interesting part about all of this is you have total control. Nobody can make you think something you don't want to think. You choose to believe what you choose to believe about you. And it's called self-talk, self-development, personal development, all those things. In your private thought life, what do you say to yourself? What do you say to yourself when you look in the mirror? What do you say to yourself when you step on a scale? What do you say to yourself when you're about ready to meet some new people for the very first time? What you say to yourself is pretty important, because it's pretty much how you're going to act or react to given situations in your life. So you have to choose to feed your mind positives that build you up. You cannot brag too much to yourself. You were taught as a child, you don't brag, don't talk about yourself all the time. Well, you talk about yourself 84% of the time to yourself. So you're talking about yourself all day long. What are you saying? Are you building yourself up, or are you tearing yourself down? And I'm going to get a read on what you think about you within 5 minutes of meeting you, and I'm going to treat you pretty much on what you're projecting. What you want to do is project confidence, and you project confidence by building up your self-esteem. Self-image is a different animal. It's a different situation. Self-image is a mental picture of what you can and cannot do. You wanted to ride a bicycle, you had to fall down a couple times and trial and error, and finally you learned to ride a bicycle. And your self-image changed from I'm not very good on a bicycle to I can ride a bicycle. And all through life, from those early years until this moment, you have based your self-image on trial and error. Putting yourself out there, making mistakes, making corrections. It's a mental picture of what you can and cannot do, and you stay pretty much within the perimeters of that. Every so often you surprise yourself, and lo and behold, you do something you didn't know you could do. The great part about that is when you do something you didn't know you could do, you add that to your self-image. Now all of a sudden you can do that. Which should tell you that there are no limitations on what you can develop yourself in the skill levels of life. Most of what we don't do and can't do is because we never tried. Or maybe we tried once, twice, maybe 3 times for good measure and then gave up. Thomas Edison didn't do that. He stayed with the program and became a multi-billionaire. And that's true with most inventors. It's true with most people who achieve high levels of productivity in whatever their career field is. They keep trying, making errors, making corrections, learning from their errors. An error is an error. It's not a disaster. But most people in our society, 95% of our population actually, identify with mistakes rather than identify with corrections to mistakes. When you identify with a mistake, you just say, I'm not very good at that. Never was. I just can't do it. But when you identify mistakes and say, I made a mistake, but I'm going to do that again until I get it right. And identifying mistakes instead of identifying with mistakes is the difference between personal growth and personal development and personal success. Everything you've ever achieved in your life came by way of trial and error, trial and error, trial and error, and finally getting it right. If that be the case, then the limitations are how often you try. You know, Colonel Sanders was at retirement age before he fried his first chicken, or at least sold his first chicken. Grandma Moses was in her 70s before she sold her first painting. And you can go on of people who have achieved great things in their latter years. Why did they wait until then? Well, in some cases, it was an opportunity that came their way when they were bored. Just grab some paintbrushes and splash some paint around. You'd be surprised what comes out. You know, get a little recorder and start singing into the recorder. You'd be surprised how much you can develop your singing voice. Music was my minor in my undergraduate work, vocal music, and I've sung in quartets for a lot of years, and I've had a lot of experience in singing. I was going to be a music teacher, and my undergraduate work was in that direction. And what I learned a long time ago is that you can develop your voice by voice exercises, proper breathing. I met a young man, he was 6'4", and when he talked, he rumbled. Hey, yeah, kind of like that, really low voice. And his name was Mike, and I said, Mike, are you a singer? He says, sometimes. He was kind of a shy kid, 6'4", good-looking kid with this big voice. I said, you have a fantastic instrument. Your voice is very resonant. Not a lot of voices around just like yours. I'd like to give you some voice lessons. Now understand he's 14 years old. He's 16. He was 16 years old at that point. So let me give you some voice lessons. He lived about 40 miles away from me, and he would come to my house on Saturday, and I would give him a voice lesson, and he'd stay overnight, and then he would go back home on Sunday. We did this for about 7 months. When we first started, I would hit a note on the piano, and he couldn't sing that note. I'd hit a great C. Great C is about da-da-da, right about there. And he'd go, ah. So I pound a little harder on the piano, da-da-da-da-da, and he'd go, ah. So I went down where he was. He was on a low C. So I brought him up, note by note by note by note. Sang this one, da, 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 da. And I played a little bit of piano, and then I had him hit a C. And he was, he was moving down back in the basement again. But I knew he could do it. He had an ear, he could hear. So we did voice lessons for 6 months, and he sang his first solo in his church. His mother was sitting on the front row with tears running down her cheeks. She was so proud of her 16-year-old son who was up there singing a solo. The next time I met Mike, he was a student at a college, and he had three lead solos in the Christmas program. I was invited to go to that Christmas program. Here's a guy now on a college level singing solos with the a cappella choir who could hardly carry a tune when he was 16 years old. You can do just about anything if you can correct your self-image. Everything that's happening in your world right now is based upon self-image. So, how do you do that? You start telling yourself, I am strong in this area. I'm developing this skill. I'm working on, and you find somebody who's an expert and let them lead you into developing those skills. You have the natural abilities to achieve about anything you set your mind to achieve. It's a matter of turning natural abilities into capabilities and enjoying everything that comes with that personal growth. The third dimension of who you are today is your self-acceptance, how you accept yourself. What do you like most about you? What do you like least about you? That's all part of your self-acceptance. This is different than self-esteem because self-esteem is something that you believe is a value that you carry. Self-acceptance is, what do you like about yourself? Can you accept your nose? Is it too big or too small? Ears stick out or not? Your weight, your height, your vocal voice, your speaking voice, your singing voice, whatever. Everything about us, we either accept or we reject or put down. It's really time that you start just accepting yourself for who you are, a unique individual, one of a kind. And when you can accept yourself for who you are, you will develop those skill levels to a higher level, and you'll become more than you've ever been before, and that affects your self-esteem, your self-image, and your self-acceptance. Fact is, you're a unique individual, one of a kind, nobody in the world just like you, and you're the very best you can be. Take what you have and develop it on a day-to-day, hour-by-hour basis. Make sure you're better tomorrow than you are today. And you do that by several things. We're going to talk about correcting a low self-esteem at a later lesson and give you some tools to work with that'll actually increase your self-esteem and self-image and self-acceptance. In the meantime, fall head over heels and sexually in love with yourself. You'll be surprised how other people will fall in love with you also because you're projecting acceptance of self, and that makes you acceptable to other people. What you project, you attract. It's a law of projection and attraction. You have to believe it to receive it. You have to project positives in order to receive positives. So, be the very best you can be. And you do that by building your self-esteem, the value you place upon yourself, building your self-image, believing you can achieve anything if you set your mind to it. You just don't give up until you get it right. And acceptance, just accepting yourself where you are. I'm not a young man anymore. I have to accept myself at my age. When I look in the mirror, I'm not going to see a young guy. But I'm going to be the very best me I can be today for who I am at my age. I challenge you to do the same thing. Drop me a note. Let me know your personal growth and some of your personal goals. I'll correspond with you. Be glad to do that. Have a great week, and we're going to continue this area of building positive relationships. How to relate to anyone, including yourself.